In this video session, we will be learning about Kepler laws. So starting with Kepler laws are very important in learning about motion of the planets and motion of the satellites. Kepler laws are categorized into three: Kepler first law, second law, and third law. Let us start with Kepler's first law, which is also called law of orbits. Kepler's first law states that every planet will be revolving around the star. Usually our solar system consists of sun at the center, and remaining all planets will be revolving around the sun. So planets will be revolving around the sun in elliptical orbits, and sun is situated at one of the foci of the ellipse. Now let me explain with a diagram. So this is elliptical path of the orbit. This is elliptical path. Elliptical path of or elliptical orbit, and there will be planet revolving in the elliptical orbit. Every planet will be revolving in elliptical orbit with sun situated at one of the foci. So here is the sun. This is sun. Actually, for ellipse there will be two focus points, and this is one focus. Either sun can be at focus F1 or sun can be at focus F2. Any of these two positions, sun will be situated, and in the elliptical orbits planet will be revolving. And the total distance, the horizontal distance of the ellipse, which is 2a, and this 2a is called semi-major axis, and this axis, like from here to here, it is called semi-major axis. Semi-major axis, and from here to here it is called semi-minor axis. Semi-minor axis. And from the sun, the nearest point of the planet from the sun is called, like if suppose planet is here, this position is called perihelion, and the farthest position of the sun, like the planet position farthest from the sun, it is called aphelion. This position is called aphelion. One is perihelion and the other one is aphelion. Aphelion is the farthest distance from sun, whereas perihelion is the nearest distance of the sun. So according to Kepler's first law, as it is law of orbits, every planet will be revolving around the sun in such a way it is in the elliptical path, and sun will be situated at one of the focus, such that the nearest position of the planet from sun is called perihelion. The farthest position of the planet from sun is called aphelion, and the total distance of the ellipse along horizontal is said to be major axis, and the total distance of the ellipse along the vertical is said to be minor axis. And usually semi-major, like major axis is usually 2a and minor axis is usually 2b. This total distance from here to here will be 2b, and distance from perihelion to aphelion is major axis, it is 2a. So now let us see some mathematical equations concerned with Kepler's first law, law of orbits. So for this ellipse, we can define a term called eccentricity. Eccentricity is denoted with E, which is equal to SO divided by OA. In the figure you can see this is S and this is O. From the center of the elliptical path to the position where sun is situated is SO. From center of the elliptical path, from center of the ellipse to aphelion, it is OA. It is SO divided by OA. From here you can write eccentricity E as E is equal to C divided by A. This total distance from here to here, it is denoted with A, and this distance I am calling it as C. OS I am calling it as C. It is C divided by OA is semi-major axis, that is A. From here you can write C is equal to EA. Take this as equation number 1. Now from figure, the distance of sun from aphelion, you can write it as RP. RP is distance of the sun from perihelion. RP can be written as A minus C, which is equal to A minus EA. A, if I take it common, it is 1 minus E. And distance of aphelion can be written as A plus C, which is equal to A plus EA. This is A into 1 plus E. So distance of perihelion and distance of aphelion, I am writing it in terms of eccentricity, where eccentricity is E. As we know, whenever the planet is revolving around the sun, you can consider law of conservation of angular momentum. So law of conservation of angular momentum is valid everywhere. From law of conservation of angular momentum, you can write it as angular momentum at position P should be equal to angular momentum at position A. Angular momentum at perihelion should be equal to angular momentum at aphelion. Angular momentum at perihelion is equal to L is equal to mvr, angular momentum. M is mass of the planet, V is velocity at perihelion, and distance it is RP, which is equal to M into VA, velocity at A, and it is RA. From here, mass on both sides gets cancelled. From here you can write velocity at perihelion divided by velocity at aphelion is equal to RA divided by RP, which is equal to 1 plus E divided by 1 minus E. Clearly, velocity at perihelion divided by velocity at aphelion is 1 plus E by 1 minus E. Numerator is greater than the denominator. So from here, velocity at perihelion is greater than velocity at aphelion. That means when the planet is coming closer to the sun, its velocity goes on increases. Whereas when the planet is coming outward from the position of the sun, velocity decreases. So if the planet is coming closer to the sun, that means near to the perihelion, its velocity increases. And when it is moving away towards the aphelion, as it is going away from the sun, its velocity slowly will be decreased. That's what we can conclude from this law of orbits. Likewise, from conservation of energy, you can even write from conservation of energy, law of conservation of energy, you can write total energy at any position will be equal. Total energy at perihelion and total energy at aphelion will be same. So therefore, kinetic energy at perihelion and kinetic energy at aphelion, total energy at perihelion is kinetic energy plus potential energy. Total energy at aphelion will be kinetic energy plus potential energy. So if you substitute those all, and if you evaluate equation for velocity at aphelion, it will be equal to under root capital G capital M divided by semi-major axis into 1 minus E divided by 1 plus E, and velocity at perihelion will be equal to under root capital G capital M divided by A into 1 plus E divided by 1 minus E. right? These are the equations VA and VP. VA denotes that velocity at aphelion. VP is velocity at perihelion. So clearly from law of orbits, you are able to state every planet will be revolving in elliptical orbit situated sun at the foci. And when the planet is revolving around the sun, when it is coming closer to the sun, its speed increases. And when it is moving away from the sun, its speed decreases. You can confirm it from the elliptical equations. So Kepler's second law is also called law of areas. Why it is called law of areas? Let me explain now. As I told you, sun is situated at one of the foci and the planet will be revolving in elliptical path. Let me consider a planet is starting at this position, which is aphelion, and after some time it is coming to this new position. Okay, this distance, like this is what angle swept over here, and this angle swept is d theta, and this is the radius vector which is sweeping angle d theta, the vector which is joining the sun and planet. I am considering it as r. So what is the statement of Kepler's second law states? The radius vector, the vector which is joining the planet and the sun, it will sweep equal areas in equal intervals of time. That means, suppose if a planet is starting at position A and it is going to position B in time delta t. In some interval of time, it have gone from A to B. It is sweeping this area. So that planet is sweeping this area. This is the area swept by the radius vector when it is moving from A to B in time interval delta t. In same time interval delta t, it should sweep equal area anywhere within that elliptical path. Here area of cross section is quite greater in time delta t. So in order to balance that, the planet will be moving very fast when it comes closer to the sun and it sweeps more area. It can be like this, starting from here. This is the area swept over when it is coming closer to the sun. And the area which is swept over here and the area which is swept over here should be same, and that is in equal interval of time delta t. So whatever area is swept here, same area should be swept here also in same interval of time. Of course, in different intervals of time, they will be sweeping different areas, but in same interval of time, the planet should sweep equal areas in equal intervals of time. So this is what said to be like the velocity, the area vector. So like this is area swept. Area swept with respect to time. Area swept with respect to time of the planet everywhere is equal to constant. Right? So this results one new definition said to be aerial velocity. Aerial velocity is equal to dA divided by dt, which is equal to constant. And if you calculate area of this, you can write it as this is in the form of triangle, right? Therefore, this area is half into base. Base is some distance, like let me take it as r, into height. Height is from A to B. This A to B, I'm just writing this as dl, because radius vector is variable with respect to time. So somewhere you will be taking very small element, like you will be taking very small element here, and this element width is dl. So height I am writing it as dl. So this gives you half into E into r. R is radius vector. It can be written as E into d theta, where radius can be written as eccentricity into angle d theta. No, I'm sorry. This dl, r is remained as it is. This dl is equal to length of the vector, right? Length of curve. Length of curvature is equal to radius into angle swept, is it not? So therefore, wherever dl is there, I am replacing it with E into d theta. So from here, you can just write it as A is equal to half into dl. It is actually, this is r. This is r into d theta. So r d theta, this is half into d theta into r square. Let me take this as equation number 1. But as we know, aerial velocity dA by dt is equal to constant. So just take this and differentiate it with respect to time. D by dt of half r square into d theta should be equal to constant. This means half into r square d theta by dt is equal to constant. But what is d theta by dt? It is angular velocity omega. It is half r square into omega, which is equal to constant. And from here you can write half r square omega is equal to constant. You can just multiply numerator and denominator with m. So it will be m r square omega divided by 2m, which is equal to moment of inertia. What is mr square? Mr square is moment of inertia, I into omega divided by 2m, which 2m, which is equal to constant. What is I omega? I omega is L. L divided by 2m is equal to constant. L divided by 2m is equal to constant, which results L is equal to constant because 2m, m is mass of the planet, 2 is also constant. So L is equal to constant. This is what? Angular momentum. Of a revolving planet is constant. Angular momentum of revolving planet is constant. This is what derived from Kepler's second law. From Kepler's first law, we have learned planet will be moving with greater speeds when it comes closer to the sun. And from there, we have written second law. It tells that aerial velocity is constant. The angle swept by the planet, radius vector, which is joining sun and the planet, will be sweeping equal areas in equal intervals of time. From there, we have proved law of conservation of angular momentum. So Kepler's second law confirms that whenever a planet is moving in the elliptical path, its angular momentum is conserved. Kepler's third law is concerned with time taken by the planet to revolve around the sun, which is called time period. Whenever a planet is revolving around the sun, definitely it is in elliptical path. We already have discussed in the Kepler's first and as well as second law. And the time taken by this planet to revolve around the sun, of course, this is major axis and this is minor axis. Semi-major axis is A, semi-minor axis is B. Kepler's third law states that square of time period of the planet which is revolving around the sun is directly proportional to cube of semi-major axis. This A is semi-major axis. So T square is directly proportional to cube of semi-major axis. This is Kepler's third law. Now let us prove Kepler's third law using universal law of gravitation. We already know that gravitational force, like whenever a planet is revolving around the sun, there will be gravitational force which is acting towards the center and there will be centrifugal force which acts outward. This is centrifugal and this is centripetal. Centripetal force is gravitational force is providing centripetal force. Therefore, this will be equal to gravitational force. Gravitational force is towards the center. It is compensated with centrifugal force which acts outward. So as we know, m r omega square is equal to mr omega square is centrifugal force which should be equal to gravitational force capital G, mass of the sun, mass of the planet divided by r square, where r square is the separation between sun and as well as planet. Mass of the planet on both sides gets cancelled with each other. I can write r into omega can be written as 4 pi square divided by t square, which is capital G, mass of the sun divided by r square. Now bring this t square to other side and r to the other side. It gives you r cube is equal to capital G divided by 4 pi square into mass of the sun into t square. So 4 pi square comes to denominator, t square goes to numerator, and the GMS as it is r square multiplied with r will become r cube. So from here you can write t square is equal to capital G mass of the sun into 4 pi square into r cube. Clearly G is acceleration gravitational constant, capital G mass of the sun is also constant divided by 4 pi square, which is equal to constant. It is a constant value. As this total parameter is constant, I can write t square is directly proportional to r cube. Hence proved. Therefore, you can prove Kepler's third law from law of gravitation. So Newton's law will be valid, and it is suitable to derive Kepler's third law. So Kepler's third law states that the square of time period of the planet which is revolving around the sun is directly proportional to cube of semi-major axis. Usually when we are dealing with this r mean that it is the separation between sun and the planet at that particular instant of time. So t square is proportional to r cube. These are the things which we have discussed in the whole chapter: gravitational force, gravitational field, gravitational potential energy, acceleration due to gravity, orbital velocity, escape velocity, and how to launch a satellite, and different types of satellites, and work done in launching a satellite, work done in shifting the position of the satellite, work done in escaping the object, and after that at the last we have discussed Kepler laws in this whole chapter. This is about gravitation, and it is of course very easy and scoring. Definitely you will be getting one question from this chapter.